What if all your life you believed you would change, that you'd outgrow the patterns, that you'd eventually leave behind the pain, that one day things would finally click? But what if that change never came easy because it was never meant to? What if the universe didn't want you to gently drift into transformation, but instead wanted to crack you wide open? That is the kind of week. Welcome back to Astro Tea Weekly. And if you're new here, my name is Alan Sky. I'm your astrologer, your numerologist. Call me a spiritual strategist and your go-to person for cutting right through the noise and bringing the most important messages to you. Let's break down what's happening this week. So we're taking a look at July 28th through August 3rd. This is going to be a week where I believe there is a spiritual extraction that's happening, a detox, and a miracle in disguise, because the only way forward now is through truth. We have to get to the bottom of things. We can't continue avoiding certain things. And now for some of us, I think the avoidance will come as a shock because maybe we had no idea. We've been avoiding certain emotional truths in our life. We had just no idea. Things were distracting. Things were the way that they were, and we accepted them for how they were. And I think with this Mercury retrograde that we're in right now, we are going to get a new perspective to not avoid certain truths, to not avoid the things that we know. We really have to get to the bottom of it. Let's break down the chart a little bit more. Let's start with the sun. The sun is moving through the early degrees of Leo, lighting up a much needed new energy field. Leo wants to bring us back to the heart, to our courage, to our visibility. It's a reminder to step into our radiance and not shrink back. This is why Leo season is always so powerful. But this sun is getting checked. On August 1st, it squares off with the first quarter moon in Scorpio at 9 degrees. And this isn't a lighthearted conversation. I mean, when I was taking a look at the chart, I could tell right away that this moon is deep, it is surgical, it is fiercely honest. The symbol at 9 degrees really speaks to the need to confront and correct what's been neglected, what's been in pain, or hidden beneath the surface. This is a moment when you realize that healing isn't always a vibe. You know, we want everything to be a vibe, but sometimes it's a confrontation. And we need that. Why? Because it's precision by the stars. It's uncomfortable. It forces us to extract what's toxic, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And boy, we are all running around with all three areas impacted for sure. I mean, it's all a little bit different. The stories are a little bit different, but right now, the times that we're living in, it's really interesting. And collectively, I do believe that we are in this place where we're really trying to extract what's toxic. But sometimes that conversation is extremely subjective. So let's move a little bit further into this, because this particular moon says you don't get to bypass things anymore. If you really want to be free, you have to face what's infected. So it's a more personal accountability type of moon conversation that we're having this week. It is then going to trickle into actions we will take with others around us. But first and foremost, it is about us really having a conversation with ourselves about getting to the root of things. Because the Scorpio 9 degrees is like, I got to get to the bottom of things. But here's the kicker, okay? This moon is conjunct Black Moon Lilith. Now let me explain her. Lilith is the exiled woman. It's the exiled feminine. The part of us that refuses to submit. Like, if you tell me no, it's gonna be a yes. She is raw, she is rebellious, and holds the emotional power society says is too much. She is where your fire lives when your voice has been shut down, okay? She is the root of unspoken rage, shadow wisdom, the spiritual autonomy. The list is long, but essentially you get the point. It's about the unspoken things, but it comes out with rage with Lilith. When the moon and Lilith meet in Scorpio, you are being called to extract the emotional poison. Stop ignoring your body's truth. Break free from the programming that says, yeah, you can't do that. You can't be that. You are too much. You might feel angry. You might feel like you're burning through layers of grief this week. Fast. It's happening fast, you guys, because it's at 9 degrees. All of this is good. Why? Because this particular first quarter moon has healing properties. So if you find yourself sometime this week having this like moment with crash outs, I just want you to remember this. I want you to write this down, okay? Because all of this stuff is the stuff that you haven't maybe confronted within yourself. And you got to get onto the other side. You can't keep it in. You can't pretend that it's not happening. You can't just be like running around and going, yeah, I logically process those things. Well, your body's got to process it too. And that is what the moon is all about this week. I want to insert something real quick that I think is really important here. A lot of people, when they come to astrology, they do a lot of conceptualizing, ideals of what it should be. I should be here. I should be there. And my first thing that I teach everyone when they come to me as a client and they are trying to understand their chart is you're not going to be able to logically process this. And you're not going to be able to just logically try to manifest things in your life. You're actually going to have to feel. This is why the moon is designed. We are in a perfectly designed universe. Nothing is random. Everything has been placed to give us full on support, but we are not able to get through these things unless we are willing to accept that we are living in the laws of planet Earth. And the laws are that the moon impacts us. Every 2.5 days, the moon changes signs and we got to feel. And I'm just here to remind you of that it is absolutely necessary to change our emotions so that we are able to see things sometimes from different angles. I'm not talking about being in chaos all the time. Please, that's not what I'm saying, okay? I am saying we have got to feel things so that our life can become alive, so we can feel things, so we can experience happiness, we can experience exhilaration, we can experience what it's like to be happy, what it's like to be sad at times. These contrasts give us the richness of our life, the depth of our life experience. And I do believe ultimately looking at astrology all week long, daily, this is what our life is about. It's about finding happiness in the ever-changing emotional world that we're in. And what is really interesting about this first quarter moon is that it's squaring the sun in Leo at 9, which is conjunct Mercury retrograde. And now the revelation starts flowing this week. This retrograde is bringing the mirror. It holds a mirror. You're learning how to harness your fire and not let it burn out of control, maybe for the first time. You're realizing you've always had intensity, but now you're ready to refine it into inspiration. And is that a bad thing? When you are on the struggle bus all the time, it's a bad thing. But if you're on the struggle bus and you just find grace with yourself and you realize that the intensity is actually commitment, that what you're trying to bring to the plate is finding love, finding happiness, finding inspiration, and really owning it. That is what the Leo energy really is saying here at 9 degrees. It's giving you a much needed boost in this intensity. Now, Mercury retrograde is going to do one of two things because that sun is conjunct Mercury. It's going to either give you a perspective that you were missing, especially about certain situations. Now, yourself, okay, is going to reflect upon your life. So it can be situations or people that presented themselves as warriors. They presented themselves as supporters or even as healers when really they were so full of shit. I'm just going to be real with everybody who's listening to this podcast today. You are going to see things this week that you have never realized. Expect clarity. Expect masks to fall. Expect to see how someone really feels about a situation and how someone really feels about you. And maybe, excuse my language, but they were blowing smoke up your ass. And yeah, friendships, relationships might get rocked. Relationships might crack. But this is where your power is, okay? This is where the miracle is happening because something wants to reclaim itself. Integrity. Something needs to reclaim itself. Something needs to get realigned so that new action can be taken. Now, on the flip side, Mercury might also deliver exactly the insight or emotional support you needed to reestablish a new self-confident energy field. The one where you're not doubting yourself. Which brings me to Saturn in Aries at 1 degree. We talked about the sun. And what's fascinating is that Saturn is in the degree of the sun, sitting in the sign of the sun, okay? This is initiator energy. Saturn has been here for a while. This is that moment where something in you gets reborn. You've been working on this reborn moment now for weeks. You may have gone through some spiritual, emotional sort of death and rebirth, maybe a creative death as well. If you are taking a look at your projects at work, if you're taking a look at even relationships and like the combination, the collaboration of people, maybe there was a death in that area. And now something else is rising. And that's Saturn. Saturn says you have got to trust the unknown and you have got to show up every single day. Let your soul emerge, even if it's messy. Because sometimes the best way to learn new things in your life, the best way to create a new path, Saturn in Aries, creating a new path forward at 1 degree is you have to show up. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. That is just not the energy that we're in. But you are being asked to lead with emotional regulation, with breath, with pacing. Most importantly, self-trust, to shape your life with intention and not just some reaction, which is what Aries can be known for, right? Aries is very fast to react, super sharp to get into action immediately. But in Saturn, it has to get regulated, okay? Now, what is also very interesting is that Saturn in Aries is squaring Venus in Cancer at 1. And it brings the emotion. What kind of emotion? It is an emotion of change. We have 2 cardinal signs that initiate something, but it's change. What kind of change? The change of allegiance. The change of who you're loyal to. In some cases, this is going to be the change of identity. And in others, this is going to be all of a sudden you realizing that your purpose is changing. The purpose of whatever you were working on, the purpose of your life, the purpose of your work, the purpose of relationships, it is changing because it has to. Because the law on planet Earth is that things can't be the same. There is an expiration date to things. So it's a moment when you realize, I can't go back to who I was, but I'm also still trying to figure out who I'm becoming. Huge realization. And that flows into relationships. Now, Venus in Cancer rules home, family, nostalgia. and it wants to be comfy, cozy. So this placement right now is entering a new emotional chapter. You're releasing outdated beliefs. Yeah, I used to believe this. I used to believe this about myself and my role. I used to believe this about my family dynamics. I always used to believe that as a woman, for example, in my family, I can do this, but I can't do that. I used to believe that, I was always the victim in certain dynamics in relationships, but I only believed that because I didn't allow myself to just say what there was to say. And you're raising a new flag. Even if your hands are shaking and you're still at sea, you are the one that's declaring this week, like, this is who I am, And if nobody else gets it, then they don't get it. So you're learning at some level in new emotional independence. You're being asked to own your emotional truth. Remember, even if your voice is shaking this week, go there, okay? Go there. It is a beautiful, beautiful week that if you do, miracles will unfold within your own heart. Let's just start there. Because maybe you owe it to yourself to break traditions. We've been talking in the spiritual community about breaking traditions for so long. This is the week, you guys. If there is a week to break the illusion, this is the week. That you're still, who you are as a human being, but it's a new version. So that is the miracle here. The miracle is realizing that, relationships sometimes, what they do to us is they confine us. They want to put us into a square. And sometimes we participate in this square. Sometimes what happens is we say, oh, this person is doing this to me, but actually we gave agreement to it. So what's happening this week on the realm of emotional independence with relationships is that we're breaking the illusion in our participation, in our agreement to these things. So I want to kind of give a little bit more of a higher, point of view here. Because what does all of this mean this week? It means that you're moving forward with emotional immaturity and real clarity about who supports your evolution and who does not. I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I have gone through so much friendship change, and this Mercury retrograde in Leo is moving through my 11th house. And I'll tell you what, this last week, I have been really reflecting on some relationships that broke my heart. I've been in this place where I realized, wow, I've been really neglecting the grievance of these particular, friendships. And it's hard. I mean, I feel like a friendship breakup personally is harder than any other level of grief so far that I have, experienced as far as relationship dynamics go. Like when you have a friendship breakup and it comes sudden and somebody starts changing their behavior with you, but you can't have a dialogue about it, or the person feels like they can't have a dialogue about it for whatever reason, and then you guys just stop talking. It's hard. It's really hard. But we have to move forward with emotional maturity. Sometimes some situations in our relationships are not solvable in the sense that there is just no conversation because the other person isn't open to it. You might text a friend, or you might text that person, and you might say to yourself, I really want to have a conversation. I want closure on this. And the person might not text back. Some of us don't even get to that state because I know so many people that will not go this extra step to try to find maybe closure or clarity because of pride. So moving forward this week means that there is an emotional maturity around how much are you willing to really have relationships that are supportive. How much of the support do you need, and what are you willing to do? What are the agreements that need to be put into place? Now let's talk about more of the negative stuff. The people that don't want you to move on. Okay. The people who don't want to celebrate your glow up. The ones that are fake supporters dressed as a fan. If your eyes don't open this week, I don't know what will. And here's where the miracle really kicks in. Mars at 26 degrees. Let's cut the bullshit. That is what Mars is at 26 degrees Virgo. Mars in Virgo, it doesn't play around at all. Like, it is a very cutthroat transit. Now at 26, it's like, we don't have time for the bullshit. We really don't. Mars is ready, not for drama, but for regeneration. This Mars wants to do the necessary work, the kind that creates sustainability, long-term results. You might feel that, okay, this is my healing era. This is my serving era. This is my create sacred structure era. Even if you feel that you might be doing this metaphorically, okay? Maybe on a vision board, maybe on an altar, maybe whatever it is that you do sort of like metaphorically, the stage, the therapy room, the spreadsheet, the garden, your art, whatever it is, there is a creative sort of sacred structure that is coming into place, or you have the vision of this. Mars brings that in when you're ready to cut the bullshit. Mars in Virgo aligns with the divine details. It is not interested in the small, like, things that are not spiritually or divinely connected. It wants divine details. You thrive when your action matches your ethics. You thrive when what you say is actually what you do. This is the power of this week, you guys. Like, I cannot explain to you, I feel like my words aren't even doing justice, with how amazing this week is actually going to be. Mars will show you the results of something new you've been working toward. It might not be the full-on thing, but it's going to show you the results of something that you have been working on for so long. You've been pouring your energy into it. You've been pouring your money into it. And it's sacred. It's sacred and it's real. Now, the most, I would say, surprising player in the chart this week, in the heart of this matter, is going to be finally Pluto at 2 degrees Aquarius, opposing the sun. Now, they were in an exact opposition, so we've had sort of this revelation. We've had certain things that are happening that we see on the day-to-day and the collective even. But this is continuing the conversation of a wake-up call. Okay, this Pluto is interested in waking things up, really waking them up. Pluto shows up when you've been too comfortable anyway, too rigid or too out of alignment. How does it show up? Well, you hear truth and transformation, and it's so true, but really it is that Pluto has its own timeline, and it's going to serve you the truth that you don't want to see. That's Pluto's promise. Pluto is like, you know what? If you don't want to do this work in the background, I'm going to show up in 10 degrees from now. I'm going to show up in 15 degrees from now. I'm also going to show up when I'm changing signs, because I've got my timeline and you are part of this earth. So you're going to have to stay on this timeline. So you might as well dig in now and do the work. And then that is sort of the conversation with Pluto. It brings things from the background into the forefront. And so it delivers sort of a jolt this week to bring you back into reality. And it's liberation through maybe chaos that's been unfolding. That's the Aquarius signature. Sometimes freedom doesn't look graceful. It looks very chaotic. It looks disruptive. It looks like, here's this door that is going to be slamming. Like a system that's breaking, like a truth you didn't want to see, but you can't unsee it now. And free will kicks in when, you have to decide, like, what are you going to do with that now? And in this degree, it might feel like 2 degrees in Aquarius. It might feel like a lightning in the mind or heart, a psychic flash, a WTF moment that actually sets you free. Sets you free of things that have been holding you back. So you want to take a look at where Pluto is at, because those are the unexpected areas. And there is such up-leveling that comes from this, okay? It's a catalyst for change, even unintentionally. So you might experience emotional releases. There is a transformation of some sort that is happening this week, or an insight that breaks you open, and you're learning to trust the storm that's in front of you. You're learning to trust the timelines that are in front of you. And with this Pluto-Sun opposition, the Sun now ahead of the daily, relentless downloads, okay? You're not going to just like be sitting around this week. There is a lot of insights that are coming, a lot of conversations, maybe a lots will show up in your dreams, and yeah, it doesn't want you to back down from that. It wants you to take in all this information. So what is the bottom line of this week? This week is confrontation with the truth, confrontation with the bullshit that you didn't want to deal with maybe, or with the parts of yourself that are done pretending. You can expect to be triggered, exposed, unmasked, and deeply, deeply empowered. That is what the most important thing is. You can also expect to be freaking happy when things are unfolding this week, because what's on the other side of it is liberation and happiness and being grounded in that. What if everything that's actually falling apart needed to fall apart? What if you've been holding on, white knuckling, okay, the edge of something, and it's actually part of what you need to let fall apart because you have to release it. You have to release your hold. It's actually the part that was holding you back. So here's sort of my final message for you. You don't need perfect conditions. I cannot say this enough. I see this with so many people that come to astrology. Like, they're just seeking the perfect condition. And it's we got to coach you out of that, because that is not reality. The perfect conditions are in the imperfect conditions. Perfect comes out of the imperfect. Perfect comes out of the imperfect moments that you are learning how to navigate. You just need to stop avoiding the medicine. Okay? This week is a week to speak your truth, to own who you are, to clean up, to break cycles, to raise a new flag, even if the waves are crashing. Because what's coming is not just change, it's freedom. And I don't know about you, but sometimes the dark collective energy hates fucking freedom. I mean, this is why people are still fighting today. This is why we still have wars, okay? Because people don't want other people to be free. So this is your Astro Tea Weekly. It was a big one. It was a deep one. I want to hear from you guys. There's a couple of different ways that you can let me know how this week is unfolding for you. You can leave a comment in the show notes below, especially if you're listening on Spotify. I will see those comments. You can send me a text. You can send me a message. It's basically called fan mail. Okay, so it says send a text. You click on it and it's fan mail. You can send me messages there. You can find me on Instagram at @TheAstroTeaPod. All of this information is in the show notes below. If you want a reading with me, everything is on sale right now. Use code SummerSale15, all capital letters, SummerSale15, 15% off. You can do a clarity session, you can do an hour long, or you can just hop onto a whole transformation train with me, the manifestation, package. I'm here for you if you need me. You know how to find me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for everybody who's been tuning in worldwide. I am so incredibly grateful to be on this podcast with you, to guide you, and I will see you in the next episode.